So I hear from a lot of people who tell me that they're having digestive issues because they don't have enough digestive enzymes to break their food down correctly. And in this video, I'm going to help you understand that in most cases, it's not about a lack of enzymes, it's about these enzymes being blocked. I'm also going to help you understand steps that you can take to improve the situation. So when we're looking at digestive enzymes, these are very important to help us break down proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. And when food leaves this stomach and comes into the first part of the small intestine called the duodenum, now a lot of people will say duodenum, but all the cool kids say duodenum. But when that food comes into the duodenum, then this pancreas, this chicken tender looking thing, then delivers these enzymes down to help us really break that food down and get all the nutrients out of that food. But let's look at some of the symptoms that come up when this really isn't happening correctly, because some people will say, oh man, you don't have enough enzymes. Some people will say, oh, you have pancreatic insufficiency, because that sounds more fancy than you have a boo-boo tummy. But when we look at the most common symptoms that show up with this lack of enzymes, we see oily diarrhea, we see steatorrhea, which is basically a type of diarrhea with the color is very light, and they'll often see undigested fats in that diarrhea. We see bloating and gas and fatigue. We see like cramps and stomach pain. We see a loss of muscle and muscle cramps, and then different types of vitamin deficiencies, which makes sense because we need to really break our food down correctly to be able to access the nutrients that are in those foods. So if we're not breaking it down, it makes sense that these deficiencies would show up. So a lot of people that are dealing with these symptoms will then supplement with digestive enzymes, and then they'll see those symptoms improve by maybe about 12%, because the reality is that with most of these symptoms, a lack of enzymes alone is not going to create the severity that people are dealing with these symptoms. In most cases, there are other malfunctions going on, and you're going to learn here that it's those malfunctions that have the ability to block these enzymes from being delivered correctly. So we just kind of have believed for a long time that just as we age, we lose these enzymes. These enzymes start to diminish. We don't have as many available, so it's a great idea to supplement with digestive enzymes. And for a long time, we just kind of told people, look, if you're over 35 or 40, you really need to be supplementing with digestive enzymes. But my viewpoint has changed a little bit, where I feel like just as we age, we have more opportunities for things to break and things just to malfunction, and for us to bring things into the body that can create trouble and lead to these issues where we're not having these enzymes available. So I think it's fine to supplement with digestive enzymes. I feel that can be very beneficial. I do that from time to time as well. But let's look at some of these issues that are going on with these enzymes not being delivered. And most of the medical world agrees that it's a hormone called cholecystokinin here in the duodenum that triggers the release of these enzymes. And let's look over on the Cleveland Clinic website, where they say cholecystokinin stimulates your gallbladder to contract and release bile into the small intestine, and it stimulates your pancreas to release pancreatic enzymes. So when we're looking at this cholecystokinin triggering this gallbladder to send bile down here into the duodenum, and that bile helps us emulsify our dietary fats. It helps us neutralize some of these acids that are leaving the stomach. So bile is very important for that digestive process. But then the cholecystokinin is also triggering the pancreas to release these digestive enzymes into the duodenum. And there's some other hormones that tell the pancreas to do some other stuff. We don't need to dig into that too much. But it's viewed that this cholecystokinin is triggered by partially digested proteins and fats. But we really need to look at a deeper level of this. It's not so vague as just partially digested food that left the stomach. Let's look over here on the Encyclopedia Britannica scientific explanation for cholecystokinin, where they say is secreted by cells of the upper small intestine. Its secretion is stimulated by the introduction of hydrochloric acid, amino acids, or fatty acids into the stomach or duodenum. Cholecystokinin stimulates the gallbladder to contract and release stored bile into the intestine. It also stimulates the secretion of pancreatic juices. So what we need to understand is it's not just food, it's basically hydrochloric acid, which is made in the stomach, or amino acids coming in, or fatty acids from fats that we consume. The problem is a lot of people are not making enough hydrochloric acid for a wide variety of reasons. Millions of people turn off their stomach acid on a daily basis on purpose. But even if a person is not taking some kind of acid reflux medication, there's a lot of reasons that someone may not be making enough stomach acid, like stress. Just being stressed can restrict the body from making that hydrochloric acid properly. And there's other reasons as well. But the problem is, if someone's not making enough stomach acid, now that acid is not coming into the duodenum and triggering this cholecystokinin to tell these things to do their job. And there can't be any amino acids because we get amino acids from breaking down protein with hydrochloric acid. If you don't have hydrochloric acid in the stomach, you can't break proteins down into amino acids. So now the amino acids are not coming down here to trigger this cholecystokinin. And a lot of people still live in the 80s, and maybe they even still have a mullet where they're listening to, oh, dietary fat is bad for us. We want to run in horror from dietary fat. So they're eating a low-fat diet. Now no fats are coming down here and triggering this cholecystokinin to tell the pancreas to do its job. So a lot of people want to blame the pancreas, but the pancreas is just sitting there, hey, I'm just waiting for somebody to tell me to do the right stuff. It's just not being triggered. Keep in mind that eating too many of the wrong kinds of grains can also block cholecystokinin. So we'll have a link in the description below for our video on Is This Why Grains Block Bile Flow? So let's look over here on the Cleveland Clinic website where they say hypochlorhydria is a deficiency of stomach acid. If you don't have enough stomach acid, you can't digest your food properly or absorb its nutrients. This leads to indigestion, malnutrition, and sometimes bacterial overgrowth. So when we're looking at these symptoms over here that we often see with a lack of enzymes, well, these are the symptoms that we see when someone is not making enough stomach acid or when their bile has become too thick and sticky to flow correctly, which is very common. And one of the reasons that can create that to become too thick and sticky is when there's no stomach acid coming down into the duodenum. Remember, the stomach acid is one of the things that really triggers the gallbladder to release that bile. So if it's not being released, it tends to stay in the gallbladder and get more concentrated and too thick and sticky to flow correctly. So when we're looking at all these symptoms going on, yes, there's a lack of digestive enzymes, but there's a lack of digestive enzymes because of these other digestive malfunctions that really have the ability to really create these symptoms in a big way. Let's look over here at this study on associations with pancreatic exocrine insufficiency. And they were just looking at different issues that are often seen when there are not being enough enzymes delivered. And one of the things they looked at was an association between use of a PPI, where someone's turning off stomach acid on purpose, and this pancreatic insufficiency showing up. And they said that 59.9% of patients diagnosed with pancreatic insufficiency were taking PPI therapy at the time of the testing, compared to 37.4% of patients without the pancreatic insufficiency. So they're saying the PPI therapy doubled the odds of pancreatic insufficiency after they adjusted for all of the other model. So this is a really big number. 59% of people that are on the PPI are having this pancreatic insufficiency show up, which makes a lot of sense. And of course, the scientific world never says, well, if you don't have enough enzymes, we need to improve this stomach acid. That's not the solution. That's not what the medical world says. But if we wanted to use common sense and we wanted to use the information that the scientific world delivers to us, and that they tell us that this cholecystokinin is what triggers the pancreas to shoot the enzymes out, and if this cholecystokinin is triggered by stomach acid leaving the stomach, well, that makes sense that if there's not enough stomach acid there, why would the enzymes come out? Why would they be delivered? Do you do your job if it's not time to do your job? The enzymes from the pancreas come out when it's time for them to come out. So when we're looking at steps to take when someone is not having enough digestive enzymes, yes, supplementing with enzymes can absolutely be helpful. But if someone doesn't have enough stomach acid, the enzymes are not going to fix that. How are you going to break protein down into amino acids and give the body the building blocks it needs to repair and rebuild itself? So we want to do more than just supplement with digestive enzymes. We want to fix digestive malfunctions. So if someone is not making enough stomach acid, I'll put a link in the description below to a study that shows us that we can supplement with betaine HCl capsules, which is basically a supplemental form of that HCl. And I'll put all these other studies and papers in the description below so you can dig into those a little bit more. Remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving anybody medical advice. I'm basically a professional stand-up comic turned nutrition author, because when I lost my voice for 8 years and 23 different doctors couldn't figure that out, I had to dig for my own answers. So now, 20 years later, I've been teaching health professionals in more than 40 countries how to help their clients fix the actual underlying causes of problems instead of just covering up the symptoms. But when you look through these studies, that'll help you figure out the right questions to ask your doctor. But when someone can acidify their stomach correctly, and maybe they need to take steps to thin out the bile so that it can flow correctly, now we have everything coming together. The enzymes will be delivered because they will be told to be delivered, and the full digestive process can work the way that it's supposed to. So if you're not sure if you have enough stomach acid or not, or maybe is my bile, did it become too thick and sticky to flow correctly, our totally free digestion course kind of walks you through figuring out which aspects of digestion need to be corrected and steps you can take to improve those. And I'll put the link to that totally free course in the description below. Or if you want to learn more, you can jump over right now and check out our video on full digestive reset. I can't wait to hear about your results.